Nini everyone, Zavora here. Today I have some Kemetic books I want to discuss with you. Let me straighten up my crown. There we go. My tiara, whatever you want to call it. It's lapis lazuli, in case you were wondering. Helps with communication. It was a wedding gift. So, books. Kemetic books. What do you start with being the newbie that you are, or the beginning that you are? Okay? So, the first ones that I would recommend would be two books by Sharon Tuttle. The first is Following the Sun, and the second is Circle of the Sun. Now, I've always said that these two books should be together, but look at that. If she actually did put them together, look how big that would be. It'd be a pretty big book. She's been talking about doing that, so I don't know if it's actually going to happen or not. But I'd buy it, because I've kind of destroyed these two with usage. Yeah, these are my working copies. I always have to, buy two versions of a book because they fall apart. I love my books. I really do. I don't mean to damage them. I'm just rough. So the first one, if you can't get both of them, if you can only get the one of them, Following the Sun is the one that I would recommend, because this lays down some basic history, some basic God work. This is like Kemeticism, not even 101, not even basics. It's like before the basics. It starts out at zero. So, yeah, there's a few chants, a few prayers, a simple way to set up an altar, a more complicated way to set up an altar, how to make a sistrum that looks exactly like mine. Okay. And ritual robes and food and whatnot. There's even some Wicca references if you are a Wiccan looking to get more in touch with your Kemetic deities who have called out to you. You know, this would be a good book for you too. So it's Following the Sun, A Practical Guide to Egyptian Religion by Sharon Laborde. Okay. The second book, Circle of the Sun, Rites and Celebrations for Egyptian Pagans and Kemetics. These are all Egyptian rituals that follow a full calendar year. It even includes the calendar, I think, in this one, and a longer version of the Eru. A lot more chants and whatnot. So yeah, it's a little bit more correspondence kind of way. I don't know. This is what I would. These are the two I would recommend. Now, if you want to get to learn the plant work and stuff, the plants, and what they were used for in ancient Egypt, then I would suggest An Ancient Egyptian Herbal by Lisa Manichetti, something like that. I don't know. I'm just going to leave this up here for you guys so you can see it. And this one's really good. This book actually will tell you the Egyptian name. It'll tell you the hieroglyphs for it. If there's a Coptic word for it, it'll give you the Greek, the modern Arabic name, what it was used for, the scientific name. Like, I got wormwood here. And then I've got the scientific name, Artemisa. I'm going to sneeze. I knew it was coming. Artemisia absinthinum or something like that, L. So yeah, it's kind of cool to see that watermelon, they had watermelon. Looked nothing like the watermelon we have today, but you know, that's genetics and breeding and selective manipulations on human parts. So yeah, plants, what they were used for, what healing properties they have, even oil recipes, poultice, and salves and whatnot are mentioned and how to make them in there. So, understanding a little bit more about, this is not like so much witchcraft related, this is more archaeological related. Red Land, Black Land by Barbara Mertz. This would be like how the modern Egyptian lived, what a scribe would go into, or what a young boy would go into if he became a scribe, to become a priest, or if he chose the soldier's life. There are some colored photos, or not colored, some black and white photos in my book, my copy that I have, of some artifacts and stuff. So Barbara Mertz goes through, like, a story, but it's also giving historical fact and archaeological evidence. I do believe Barbara Mertz is an archaeologist, but yeah, this is actually a really Really good books for you guys to check out. Red Land, Black Land by Barbara Mertz. I think that's her name, right? Yeah, Mertz. So yeah, it's just some photos. I always found mummies beautiful. People would like tell me that mummies freak them out and stuff. I'm like, are you kidding? Those are the most gorgeous things I've ever seen in my life. I don't know, I'm weird like that. Alright, so let's say you want to understand a little bit more about the language. The book that I would recommend would be Egyptian Hieroglyphs for Complete Beginners by Bill Manley. Okay? This is a really good book to start with. Now, he never really goes into any pronunciation because the Egyptian language is a dead language and it's very hard to understand what it would sound like. There was actually, when they began deciphering the Rosetta Stone, there was two methods that they used. The English used deductive reasoning. Like they saw in the Greeks that priest was said like 13 times. So they looked for a grouping of letters, of hieroglyphs, that appeared 13 times. I'm like, oh, that's the word for priest. Let's write it down. And it's eyeball, donkey, like whatever it is. They wrote it down like that has to be the word for priest. The French went out and actually studied the Coptic language because the Coptic church preserved a lot of the Egyptian language, and they learned the word for priest and how to pronounce it and how to translate it through into Greek and then into English and French and German and whatnot. So yeah, Latin languages, excuse me. They figured out how to translate it into the Latin languages. So yeah, this is actually a really, really good book. He never goes over pronunciation, but he does go over like the very beginning. I was gonna show you the painting that I have of the basic hieroglyphs. This would be like your basic alphabet, okay? And what they all are and what they all mean, what letters they stand for. So you can actually learn to decipher, in the Book of the Dead, you can learn to decipher it for yourself. Because a lot of the writing, at least in, my copy, is preserved. And I can see details. If actually one of the things that Budge really does in his book is he painstakingly transcribed every hieroglyph into his books. So but yeah, you can begin to translate it yourself if you stick with it. If you're not bad like me and go, fuck this is hard. I'm working on it, okay? I'm working on it. Now, if you want to get a little bit more into the mythology and knowing the deities and some of the traditions and stuff like that, I would recommend Geraldine Pinch. Geraldine Pinch. Ancient Egyptian Mythology, a guide to gods, goddesses, and traditions of ancient Egypt, okay? She goes over, she's an Egyptologist. Oh, I turned to Anubis, and yesterday was his birthday. So, well, depending on what calendar you use. So, she goes over who he was, what he looked like, what the symbolism is, what his beginning origins are from the Old Kingdom all the way up until how he was perceived into the Ptolemy times. It's kind of interesting. She even has He Who Shall Not Be Named. Let me see if I can get a shot of it. It's Pep. There's Ra slaying him. Ra is the tomcat slaying the serpent. So, yeah, good book. Good book. Okay, so, once you get really advanced in your Kemeticism, this is more of an intermediate book. I still struggle with this one here, but it is quite an interesting read. If you guys are ever curious as to why Egypt is the mother of magicians and where ceremonial magic got its start, read some of these that Richard Reedy in Eternal Egypt has laid down. They're individual steps from all the way from sprinkling sand and natron about the floor to lighting a fire with not a fucking lighter, like flint and steel kind of thing. And there's so much hecka in this book. He goes over like a little bit of stuff. This Sharon Laborde's work is incredibly trimmed down and light and everything. I don't got 6 hours for this fucking ritual. And some of these rituals I'm reading, I'm like, God damn, this is gonna take forever. So, yeah, if you guys are ever interested in learning why or how ceremonial magic got its start, check out Richard Reedy's Eternal Egypt. It's got quite a few rituals in there. So, I think there's even one to Sekhmet in here. I haven't really gotten that far. It is very complicated. Yeah, that's it for tonight, guys. Oh, wait, did I mention the Book of the Dead? I did tell you about the Book of the Dead, right? I showed it to you. Always get yourself a copy of the Book of the Dead. Mine's Faulkner's. I don't like Budge's translation. He was very much influenced by his Christian roots. This is the updated version by Carol Andrews. You guys have heard me say that before. I really enjoy this. It's a modern language compared to the these and thous and thou arts and of the royal language 100 plus years ago. So, that is it for tonight, guys. Sun update.